We've got an update on the status for The Rock for WrestleMania 41 and why he could be facing someone that fans may not expect. We're going to talk about that, who he might be facing, why that may or may not make sense in a lot of people's eyes, and what could be next for the great one, the final boss of WWE. We're also going to get into some AEW news, talk about Swerve Strickland, the status of his contract, as he had some interesting things to say this past week about that. We're also going to talk about AEW Wembley Stadium. I am, of course, in town for that show, London, Wembley Stadium. As of this recording, it is a few hours before the show, but we're going to talk about that as well at the end of the video. But let's get right in and talk about The Rock. So, speculation been running rampant that, The Rock was going to be facing Roman Reigns at WrestleMania this past year. This comes off of the heels of The Rock Roman Reigns' return, and people speculating that, well, one of the reasons he's back, one of the big reasons that he's returning at this point is because he is going to face The Rock. That's why we're seeing the integration of the new bloodline. That's why we've seen Roman Reigns adopt, a more almost Rock-like final boss aesthetic in his entrance, his music, all that kind of stuff as of recently. And that seems to make sense, and that seems to be the match that they are building towards. The bloodline is obviously becoming even more and more of a focal point in Roman's story. And given that, and given The Rock and his, relevance, obviously, to that group, one would think that they would do that match. Well, we're now learning, courtesy of WRKD Wrestling, which is an aggregator with that seemingly has some sources, which is why I think it's worth talking about. They said on X that The Rock and Roman is currently not the plan. The plan instead is to do Rock Cody this year, then Rock and Roman at WrestleMania 42. All right, so a lot of interesting things to talk about here. Obviously, Rock and Cody was a match that this past year, many people, that was the match people wanted for Mania. Like, we watched the build going into WrestleMania 40, it was less so about Cody and Roman. Like, Roman was weirdly an afterthought in reality going into that match at Mania 40. And the focus was on three things: Cody, Rock, and the title. That was it. The only reason that Roman really mattered in that, trios was because he was the champion and he held the belt. If it wasn't for that, Cody didn't really have any real need to go after Roman at that point. There was nothing that was really emotionally built. And if you watch the build, again, it was The Rock beating down Cody. It was The Rock cutting promos on Cody. It was The Rock motivating, in a weird way, Cody and bringing out this fire in Cody that he needed to win the world championship. Rock was the heel going into Mania. Cody was the face. And Roman was, again, weirdly the afterthought. And then, obviously, Roman has this big return. We've been waiting for months, and it seems like this bloodline was going to be what led to that match. And it seemed like the direction was going to be, or is, Roman and The Rock, because of everything we've seen play out over the past number of months. But for them to go back to Cody and Rock would be interesting. I don't think it's going to be a failure. Like, people are already saying, oh, it's the wrong choice. WWE's in the mud, all that kind of stuff. Reality is, you could do either of these matches and it makes sense. Personally, I thought the way they were going to go about it was do Cody and John Cena on night one, and then Rock and Roman on night two, or something like that. Because I think if you got a time to do Cody and John Cena, do it this year at WrestleMania. Or next year at WrestleMania, excuse me. Do it in Vegas. Do it in front of, tens of thousands of fans, however many they're going to be there, and make it big time. Because this is going to be John Cena's final WrestleMania. Him wrestling for the WWE Championship in his final Mania would be a big moment. It would get a lot of people talking, and it would make a lot of sense when you look at the story, especially with him and the ties that, his character has with Cody. Like, in a lot of ways, like the Cody Lander kind of comparison to John Cena is like, it's like true, right? It's like, Cody kind of exists in a weird world of his own. At least he did in AEW, and then, he's come back here, he's won the title, and after winning the belt, it's just kind of been like, all right, Cody wins low. But we'll see. Obviously, both are very over. I would love to see that, but Either way, that match, whatever match they end up doing, it's going to be awesome. So the other match that was revealed was Seth Rollins, CM Punk, according to WRKD Wrestling. That seems to be the direction that they are going in, and that is an unsurprising one at this point. I think that we all expected to see Seth Rollins and Punk in some variation at some point. Many speculated it could be or it could have been, as soon as Bash at Berlin, but that is not happening now. This is the story that they could tell here is very interesting because for years, CM Punk has kind of taken credit for the Shield, which rubbed, obviously, Roman Reigns the wrong way. Like, him and Punk do not see eye to eye. You also have, like, I'm not going to say animosity, but, like a little bit of heat between himself and Rollins over stuff like that. And some of the things that he has said about WWE, a company that Rollins loves, a company that Rollins represents, a company that Seth Rollins is very proud to represent in many ways. I said it before, I'll say it again. He is Mr. WWE. So to have Rollins and Punk kind of have a match, I think there are definitely some real world things you could build off of. Whether WWE leans into that in the variation and degree that which WWE leans into that is TBD, but that's going to be another match to keep an eye on. It's going to be another big time thing for WrestleMania 41 if they end up doing it, of course. We'll see what happens there, but I can tell you one thing, man. It's going to be interesting. Let's move on and get into some AEW news, however. Let's talk about All Elite Wrestling because it is Wembley Day again as of this recording. And we got some interesting news about Swerve Strickland, the current or former, depending on when you're watching this, AEW World Champion, was on Barstool's Wrestling podcast where he said the following about his contract status. Quote, "I've always said me winning the AEW Championship was phase 2. That was the beginning of phase 2 of my career. Right now, I'm in the midst of a renegotiation stage because I'm really enjoying my status here in AEW. I'm enjoying everything about the locker room, the roster, the talent, the promotion. I love the fact that I'm a really big part of building a company to different revenue, different avenue, different and things like that as far as AEW. So that's going to be the beginning of phase 3 of my career, and this is truly just the beginning of what is about to happen for me, not just for the wrestling side, but everything altogether as a performer." Swerve Strickland, of course, as of this recording, again, AEW World Champion. That could have changed, but he has been a big deal ever since he signed with AEW. There's been no doubt about that. People were very down on his signing back in 2022, but he has done everything and anything to prove them wrong and succeeded at doing that. He was so successful in that, allegedly, WWE at one point reached out to him and tried to get him back, and then that led to some contract tampering talk. But obviously, Swerve Strickland, one of the best wrestlers in AEW, one of the best wrestlers and performers, to be honest. And it feels different when he's out there. Like, when Swerve is hitting and he's in the ring and he's like, his moveset is so spectacular. His aura, for lack of a better term, is oozing. Like, you can feel it. It's energetic if you're in the arena, if you're at home, wherever. And that's why he's going to get a big deal. I think AEW is not going to let him go anywhere. If they did, and if his contract hypothetically expired, WWE would get him right back in a heartbeat. You know that. And they would do major things with that. And you think Swerve's like a media mogul now? Think of what he would be with that WWE and TKO platform as well. So I think he's going to stay. The renegotiation, all that kind of stuff. The fact that he's talking about it and he's talking about it in such a positive light means that he doesn't want to go anywhere, means that he likely wants to stay. And Tony Khan, with this WBD money likely coming in soon, it's going to be a big payday for the AEW World Champion, Swerve Strickland. You can bet on that. And finally, guys, let's talk about a little bit of Wembley news because AEW All In is live from Wembley Stadium. Last WrestleTix had this event at over 51,000. I believe it was 51,800 for the tickets distributed estimate, which is going to be well over that probably by the time the show rolls around, because walk-ups are going to be a thing. There's also going to be, obviously, like, whatever sponsorships or comps that AEW gives out. It's going to be an electric atmosphere and Wembley. Bryan's last match, potentially. I'm obviously going to be there. I've got, let me see if I have it here. I don't, but I have a big-ass Bryan Danielson flag that I'm going to be waving around and crying like a maniac, regardless of what happens. It's a big show. It feels like a big show. Being in London over the past, day, literally 24 hours, you can tell that there's an energy about this show, and the fans here, let me tell you, they love themselves some AEW. They love themselves pro wrestling in general. But today's gonna be great. You have a lot of rumored returns as well, which is another thing that I want to talk about. I mean, Jamie Hayter is rumored to return. You have the potential return of Switchblade Jay White, the potential debut of Ricochet. And one thing that, you might even see is a surprise, or another surprise or two, which we'll see if this happens. I'm not going to say it. I'll say it afterwards at some point, based on what I heard. But regardless, it looks like it's going to be a big night of wrestling. The main event, Bryan Danielson, Swerve Strickland for the AEW World Championship. I think Bryan wins. I'm just going to say it. I think Bryan wins. We all think Bryan wins. We all hope Bryan wins. But FightfulSelect.com did actually come out with an update about Bryan and his health, where he said, Bryan's beat up pretty bad. And, it kind of led to people maybe thinking that it's possible that this could be it and he could just walk away after this. I don't think that's likely, but you never know with someone's health, right? If Bryan is as beat up as they say he is, it's very well possible that he could just hang it up. But we will see. Obviously, Wembley Stadium, AEW, the vlog's going to be out at some point after the show. I'm going to try to run back, do a live stream. Maybe we'll see if that ends up happening. But you'll get some type of review over the next day or two. But wild times. AEW, Wembley Stadium. Can't wait. Guys, let me know what you guys think about this. Let me know what you guys think about Mania plans. What do you think about those rumored Mania plans? Do you want to see The Rock versus Cody? Would you rather see Roman versus The Rock? I want to hear from y'all in the comment section below. Also, be sure to smash that like button, subscribe, and hit that notification bell so you get notified whenever a new video is released.